You know, saw this title and I was like, I don't know if it's dead, but it's definitely on life support right now. Boop. Boop. See what we got here.
So I was relaxing the other day with my pint of cheap supermarket vodka as I watched the latest episode of The Mandalorian, staring glassy-eyed at the TV screen as a pointless 5-minute space battle gave way to an equally pointless 40-minute side story about a pair of characters I didn't know or care about.
Yeah, I gotta say that last episode was like, what in the hell is going on here? Although I enjoyed the first 5 minutes and the last 5 minutes of the show, so.
When a thought occurred to me, is it possible to ride a polar bear into battle? Wait, what? I mean, I just don't care about this stuff anymore. I didn't feel one single emotion as I sat through that 45 minutes of boring, tedious, pointless, directionless nothingness. Not a shred of anger, resentment, confusion, joy, relief, intrigue, or sadness. It was like sitting there watching a screensaver on my PC. My brain was vaguely aware that my eyes were sending it some pleasing images, but it generated absolutely no response or engagement. And that's when the realization finally sank in. This is what Star Wars is now. This is all it is. And in all likelihood, this is all it's ever going to be. Just a series of shallow, forgettable, undemanding, vaguely pleasant-looking TV shows buried deep within a cluttered and faltering streaming service. The kind of bland, inoffensively diverting white noise that you leave playing in the background while you scroll through your phone, or eat dinner, or lie semi-conscious in a pool of your own urine. Fuck. You know how sometimes a movie will begin at the end of its story with the protagonist staring in shock at the scene of some disastrous calamity and asking themselves, how did it come to this?
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty much where I'm at with Star Wars now. How the hell did this franchise fall so low? How did one of the biggest, most recognisable and profitable pop culture phenomenons in modern history become a laughable and irrelevant footnote in the corporate streaming wars? How did they manage to squander the seemingly inexhaustible goodwill and enthusiasm of the biggest fan base in cinema history? Well, just like it takes more than a single hit to sink a battleship, so it requires more than just one bad decision to bring down a franchise as large as Star Wars. Luckily though, the history of this franchise over the past 10 years is positively teeming with them. I mean, you don't need me to tell you what a disastrous farce the sequel trilogy turned into, basically devolving into a war between an egotistical wannabe auteur and an overrated corporate hack, each of them doing their level best to erase the work of their predecessor. And all of this presided over by an incompetent diversity hire that I wouldn't trust to manage my local Domino's pizza. The chaos behind the scenes and the resulting fan backlash even spilled into other movies that they tried to get off the ground, basically killing Solo stone dead and nixing the prospect of future sequels. Ambitious new movie projects and even whole trilogies were announced to great fanfare and then quietly shelved as writers, directors and ideas fell out of favour. With Star Wars basically dead at the box office and the unspecified virus of unknown origin making future movie releases questionable at best, the decision was made to use it as a tentpole attraction for Disney Plus instead. And if I was a cynical man, I'd say it was a way of limiting the financial damage and professional embarrassment of having Star Wars movies actually flop at the cinema, something that would have been completely unimaginable 20 years earlier. And so, the great experiment, The Mandalorian, began. A show about a bounty hunter at the edge of the galaxy who slowly gets embroiled in larger events. It was simple, it was low level, it was episodic, and after the overblown disaster of the movies, it was exactly what fans were looking for. An easy, uncomplicated palate cleanser that emulated the look and feel of classic Star Wars, and even recaptured the sense of adventure and possibility. For a while at least. Yeah, you could argue that most episodes were so simplistic as to be almost insulting to human intelligence, but whatever.
Yeah, because, you know, sometimes the answer is simple to a problem. Simplicity works. You don't have to overcomplicate things or, you know, just dilute things with so much intrigue and complicated storylines trying to show off your brain power as a producer or writer or director. Sometimes simplicity just works. And I think it works with this. We'll see how it continues to work. Or not for the third season, though.
I guess people were more easily pleased back then. The second season even delivered what may be the ultimate piece of fan service by having Luke Skywalker show up to save the day. There was no particular reason for it, and the more you think about it, the less sense it actually makes, but whatever. It got people right in the feels, and if you hit them hard enough in that particular area, it tends to bypass the thinking part of their brains. The problem is that giving Disney one marginally popular Star Wars show with a marketable character is like giving a T-bone steak to a pack of starving wolves. They wanted more, and fast, and so pretty soon the floodgates were opened and the sludge began to flow. Book of Boba Fett was a rushed, cheap, and ultimately pointless adventure featuring an old, overweight, and incompetent revision of a classic character who lets his sidekick do most of the fighting, talking, and thinking for him, a creepy CGI Luke Skywalker who spoke and acted about as realistically as a T-800.
Fuck you, asshole.
Whose main purpose was to undo the events of The Mandalorian. Because let's be honest, if you've finally stumbled ass backwards into a character that you can actually merchandise after 5 movies and hundreds of millions of dollars, then you're probably going to want to keep them around. I mean, those Rose Tico action figures aren't exactly flying off the shelves, are they? Things only got worse with Obi-Wan Kenobi, which managed to tarnish the legacy of not one, but 2 of the most popular characters in the Star Wars franchise, retcon events that absolutely never happened, and act as another bait and switch, this time to launch another tedious, strong, empowered female character. Because clearly the movies didn't give us enough of those.
Right.
I wonder who mandated that particular plot point. Ironically, the only halfway decent thing to come out of all of this was Andor, a prequel to a spin-off about a character that's already dead. Yeah, genius marketing right there. I mean, it was smart, mature, and complex, but it was also hampered by the fact that nobody wanted it, and so nobody watched it, and the show basically sank without a trace. But hey, at least The Mandalorian's still going strong, right? Season 3 somehow managed to open to lower viewing figures than Book of Boba Fett, and if you think those numbers are going to improve over the season, then you're probably an employee of Lucasfilm. This right here is how far Star Wars has fallen, when even its flagship TV show is struggling to get the numbers of an unpopular spin-off from a couple of years ago. Nobody even seems to be talking about it anymore. Honestly, the only reason I even knew that Season 3 had started was because someone mentioned it on Open Bar. And out of the 3 episodes that have aired so far, our supposedly experienced protagonist has now been captured twice and rescued twice by a strong female character who's rapidly becoming the real narrative focal point of the season. This all seems oddly familiar, doesn't it? I wonder who mandated that particular plot point. But what about the future, you may ask?
Trust me, I noticed that, but I'm just like, I'm trying to give it the chance for her not to be overshadowing him, which I don't think she is yet. But we'll see.
What exciting Star Wars projects do we have to look forward to? Well, tell me, who's excited for The Acolyte? Another female-centric Star Wars story headed up by Harvey Weinstein's former assistant. Or how about Lando, a show about a pansexual smuggler and his love for droids? Or Skeleton Crew, a coming-of-age teen drama about a bunch of characters that nobody's ever heard of? Well, that...
I don't care about none of these. Holy shit, I didn't even know about them.
That doesn't sound great, but what about the movie front? After all,
it'll
it's
be
been
good like
almost
Andor,
4 years since the last Star Wars film graced our screens. Tell me, how's that trilogy coming along, Ryan? Or how about you, Dan and Dave? Still working hard on that Star Wars film? Patty, how's Rogue Squadron shaping up? And Taika, I bet you've got some great stuff in the pipeline after the roaring success of Love and Thunder. The fact is, none of these movie projects are ever going to happen. It's nothing but the desperate pipe dream of a studio that's completely out of creative ideas, desperately throwing shit against the wall in the hopes that something might stick. And whatever shows they manage to shart out onto Disney Plus, assuming they don't just get cancelled first, will be nothing but more of the same garbage we've already had. Rushed, cheap, bland and forgettable sludge. A bunch of bored actors lined up against green screens, reciting lines that were probably generated by an AI, with occasional cameos from artificially generated legacy characters in the desperate hopes of stirring up some kind of fan interest.
I was waiting for that.
This is what the heat death of a franchise looks like, ladies and gentlemen. The sputtering embers left behind long after the fire has gone out. Star Wars was once a formative experience for whole generations of moviegoers, a landmark pop culture event that redefined what movies could be, that reshaped the landscape of cinema, and gave us characters and moments that still resonate almost half a century later. Now it's nothing but a dead brand, hollowed out to its very core, strip-mined of every usable resource, and exploited to the point where there's simply nothing left to give. Until at last we find ourselves at the end point of franchise collapse. Apathy. And why? Because the people in charge of it didn't know what the fuck they were doing. Because it was taken from someone who, whatever his faults and shortcomings, genuinely cared about the characters and universe he created, and it was given over to talentless, clueless, soulless corporate hacks who only saw it as a resource to be exploited or as a platform for the message, but lacked the skill, intelligence and imagination to do anything meaningful with it. And so instead they lurched from disaster to disaster, each new failure slowly eroding the value of their brand and the goodwill of the fan base, until there was finally none left of either. And well, don't say we didn't try to warn you, Disney. We told you exactly where you were going wrong, and instead of listening to us, you doubled down on every single thing that was killing your brand, and insulted us for our efforts. Quite frankly, it was only a matter of time until we simply gave up trying.
Yep.
So don't expect any sympathy from me on this one. You made your bed, and now it's time to fucking lie in it. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now.
That's he's got it absolutely correct. We've been telling Disney forever. For years we've been telling them what we really want. But it feels like they've been telling us what we should want. And that doesn't work. He's right though. But I have enjoyed The Mandalorian so far, except for that last episode. Hopefully things get better and I continue to enjoy it. Other than that, go away now. Make sure you subscribe to The Drinker. Tell them Tyrone Magnus sent you. And man, if you have anything else to add to this, down below in the comment section, do your thing. Other than that, I will see y'all later. 10 million subscribers. Woo!